Welcome to our panelists. We're joined this week by former state representative and House Minority Whip Daniel Foley. He's right there in his garage. We love that. We're happy to welcome back Andy Lyman, reporter at New Mexico Political Report, and a big thank you to Inez Russell Gomez for pinch hitting for us this week at the last minute. Really appreciate that. Thank you all for being with us this week. Now, the Hydrogen Hub plan is back from the dead for a third time as we sit here taping on Thursday. Now, with several changes. Before we get into the meat of what's inside the bill, some of our viewers might be wondering how this proposal was able to be revived in the first place after last week's filing deadline for new legislation. Andy, big favor, could you explain how this worked and the idea of a dummy bill and how that all works?
As far as my knowledge about it is that leadership, and that means minority leadership, in both the Senate and the House, get sort of a package deal of these sort of blank bills. And it's there's usually, the title is relating to the public health and safety welfare of the state. And it sort of is just blank. And what those are used for sometimes. And we've saw this in 2013 with the quote Breaking Bad hold harmless bill. We've seen it in years since then as well, where you get past the day to introduce new legislation, and you can take that bill. It's already been introduced, right? It's already there. So you just amend it, maybe do a committee sub, and then add the meat of the bill in there. So that's how this is allowed to sort of bring back, because we are past the day to introduce new legislation.
Yeah, interesting points there. Dan, you're no stranger to dummy bills and how this all works, but this new bill, House Bill 228, right?
There are whoa. What do you mean? Come on. I passed like 3 bills in my entire career, and you're going to tell me I'm no stranger to dummy bills?
I love it.
That alien day was an extremely crucial piece of legislation for the state of New Mexico.
People still talk about it to this day. However, House Bill 228 we're talking about here, no more tax credits. Instead of businesses will have to apply for that money. Very interesting change there. And there are different emission standards. These are tweaks that didn't fundamentally change the objective of the plan, but are they going to be enough to change the result and finally get this through committee at the very least?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, this is, right now, there's a few things right now that there's a rush nationally for progressive Democrats to be the first to do, right? And so this is things that, Republicans, when I say progressive Democrats, I don't mean that like Republicans don't do this also, right? I mean, there's Republicans are in charge. There's a run to do things. You want to be the first state to do something. So there's a desire, I believe, from the fourth floor to see something like this come out, from what I understand, to be out there. The problem is, I think what you're witnessing is kind of what's going on in Washington, D.C. right now. The progressive Democrats have a movement. They're kind of in charge. And, it's kind of a battle internally, because here's the thing. It doesn't take a Republican vote to pass anything in Santa Fe. It doesn't take one. They don't need a single Republican vote to pass anything in the House, the Senate, or for the governor to sign. So clearly there's some sort of something that's causing some consternation within the Democrat caucus. And you have to now try to figure out a way to appease the progressive Democrats that say, look, we want all of this stuff, while you're keeping in tow the conservative Democrats especially from rural New Mexico, which we'll talk more about in a little bit, that are saying, well, hold on a second. I'm not sure if this is something my ranching constituents want or my oil and gas guys want. So there's a constant battle of trying to put all of that stuff together. Whenever you see this happen like this, it just tells you that the Democrats aren't all rowing in the same direction, but eventually they will. Now, lots of times this late in the game, you'll let leadership introduce bills just to kind of keep people happy. Hey, you got your bill introduced. Go ahead and do it. But I don't think they'd be putting this much effort into it if they didn't think they were close to getting something done.
Interesting points there. I appreciate that. Inez, the way this has played out has been pretty interesting. Particularly House Speaker Brian Egolf was the one to table that second attempt at this Hydrogen Hub Act. He made that move. There were protests over the legislation outside. There were high school kids protesting outside the Roundhouse. You remember that day? What do you make of the Speaker's tactics in the session so far, particularly on this issue?
Well, Dan, I think, is exactly right that there's a split among the Democrats, but it's the progressive Democrats that are against hydrogen, because hydrogen is based on using a fossil fuel, and getting that fossil fuel, natural gas, and all the different things you do to use hydrogen involves fracking. So the environmentalists, who have been some of the governor's biggest supporters, have been against this bill since before she even talked about it. I remember getting emails from different environmental groups before she introduced it saying, watch for hydrogen. There is no clean hydrogen. They view it as the latest clean coal, which was not clean, and as the last gasp of natural, of oil and gas trying to stay alive and be able to produce things. So EGOF, I think, understands who supports Democrats in New Mexico and knows it's not ready for prime time. At least that's my reading of it. I haven't spoken to him, and he tabled it. The governor, I was told, is so committed to getting something done that she's going to keep coming back, and she's very persistent.
Right.
My take from a political viewpoint is, why do you want to make angry some of your biggest supporters, which are the environmental groups? Because they are not in favor of this at all.
That's an interesting point.
You know, Jason Sandell is somebody who wrote a pro-hydrogen editorial, the Republican from Farmington. So those are the kind of people who are for hydrogen.
Interesting points there. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah. So
What
I
was
was
Dan?
well,
My fault. Go ahead.
sorry. So Jason's a Democrat. He's not a
Oh,
Republican.
you're right. Sorry.
I thought
He's conservative, though.
I thought, yeah. So I think that Inez is sort of right, but I think the problem is the difference, which we'll talk. I think now's a good time to bring up the difference between rural and urban Democrats in New Mexico, right? I mean, you got folks. She's right. Environmentalists, liberals, progressives, really strong supporters of the Democrat Party in Albuquerque, Santa Fe, kind of getting some pockets in other places. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're a Democrat running for office in southeastern New Mexico, northwest New Mexico, those aren't your friends, right? You're not. They may be you guys that show up and vote for you, but that's not whose door you're knocking on to raise funds. That's not whose door that your Republican opponent's going to be knocking on. And so I think that it's, even though that there is the discussion that can be made that the environmentalists are the friends of the Democrats. Clearly, I mean, they're not voting for Republicans.
Yeah.
You have a lot of Democrats that are like, hold on, I want to take the money, I want to take the votes from those guys, but I got to keep the other side happy over here because my district is 60-40, or even because you go anywhere from Hobbs to Roswell to Carlsbad, Artesia, you're going to be in trouble if you're a Democrat.
Let me ask this of Andy. Interesting. I see you sort of watching the conversation, and given how this has been received, are there legitimate questions about how this hydrogen plan was even rolled out in the first place? I mean, did the governor and Democratic leadership give themselves any kind of runway, as Inez mentioned a second ago, to appeal to their progressive colleagues, the general public? I mean, there really wasn't much mention about this until it was right in front of us just before the session started.
Yeah, I to that point, I guess it was no secret that these groups that are out there protesting now were against this before. Even Speaker Egoff has been, sort of the target of some of these groups in previous elections, saying, and all politicians really, from these environmental groups saying, they're in the pockets of the oil and gas industry because everybody gets money from oil and gas, basically. So I don't know. That could have been. I don't know if this was a strategy or if there was a strategy. I will say that making sort of the progressives mad on this one issue may not hurt her in November, given the fact that their options are Republicans, right? So I don't know.
I know it's an interesting point there, but how does this bill mesh with the rest of the governor's climate agenda? You know what I mean? There's lots of other climate stuff on the agenda. How does she reconcile all these things?
They reconcile it by claiming that this is clean hydrogen and it will help us.
Yeah.
But the science, at least the study that people who are against it quote, show that this is 20% worse for the environment when you burn hydrogen than when you burn just regular fossil fuels. So I don't see how you balance it. To me, climate change is one of those things you're either all in or you're not. And trying to split the difference is damaging. And to Andy's point, obviously, if you're running against a person who doesn't believe climate change exists, you're going to get the support of the kind of the green community or the progressive community. But I think it's a mistake to take that for granted when you need enthusiasm to win, when your poll numbers are a little bit lagging compared to where you would like them to be. So I would urge any politician not to take their supporters for granted.
Dan, real quick, we've got a Texan that owns the out in Pruitt, New Mexico. They want to flip this into a hydrogen plant. We've got a lot of Texans sniffing at this business because there's natural pipelines in Texas for all this stuff. Are we being led by the nose here on hydrogen? Do we really have a play here? Or market forces going to make New Mexico sort of an also-ran on this?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're a market force in a lot of things that people don't realize. I mean, you got to remember when the brownouts happened out in California, there were some real discussions in New Mexico. We're a big interchange for stuff going from Texas west and stuff coming down from Wyoming heading east. There's big interchanges up in Farmington, New Mexico. So we have the ability to be a big player. I think one of the things that we have to remember as well is that, we like to, I'm not accusing anybody on the show, the environmentalists like to rail against the oil and gas community, but then all the same environmentalists want the oil and gas community's taxes to pay for full day kindergarten and all the other programs. And I think the governor is in a unique position, right? She has to not only appease to her base, as most people learn in politics, there's also a point she has to govern, right? She has to say, hey, listen, I'm wanting to deliver on crime packages and education packages. That money has to come from somewhere. And, just one day hoping the oil and gas industry is gone out of New Mexico. There's nothing on the horizon to replace the oil and gas industry, that amount of money today. People hope cannabis is going to be that, moving in that direction. But I don't think we're being led by anybody. I think that, there's lots of things in Texas has, they're a lot more forward thinking on their progressiveness with oil, gas drilling and things that they're doing. When we started getting hard on drilling in New Mexico, everybody went right across the border and started horizontal drilling right into New Mexico, sucking the oil out. We got no taxes for it. So, I think we need to be on the cutting edge of some of these things that we're looking forward to. We're looking at, we had our name mentioned.
We'll see what happens.
For the Tesla stuff.
Just because I'm running out of time here, Dan, sorry about that. Obviously, Energy Secretary Granholm was in town a few months ago. There's a lot of activity here. We'll see what happens. Thank you all for your perspective on that issue. We'll check back with you in about 10 minutes for an update on the crime-fighting legislation in the Capitol and a potential staffing crisis at the Bernalillo County Jail. But up first, we check in with Representative Melanie Stansbury and her work in Washington, D.C. Much of that effort builds on her years of experience in water planning. She recently caught up with environment reporter Laura Paskus to talk about a new bill that would improve water quality for tribes. The two also talk about climate change and why it so rarely rises to the top of concerns for lawmakers.